Well, I'll probably just chuck this in here. Well, if you're here, welcome to the BMI Podcast, guys.
Welcome.
We're pretty much going to be talking about, I guess, business anyway, and how things are going for us.
Like New Year.
Yeah. Well, we haven't really had a chance to catch up. We've both
Not
been
really.
pretty busy.
Yeah.
The
And I mean, the
year.
only time we caught up was walking dogs.
Yeah. So which is quite nice. So we actually cross paths quite a bit now.
Exactly. The local park.
Yeah. How's that been for you?
Well, we're settled.
Yep.
We're now settled. So like the location is definitely better.
Yep.
Just easier, I think. And to be fair, probably easier for both of us. Like Corbs is a halfway house. Like it doesn't really matter because she's about 4 minutes either side, whether we are at the old place or at the new place.
Yeah.
But for me, it's significant. Like it's an extra 15, 20 minutes shorter on the walk-in.
So you're getting like 40 minutes back of your day.
The to and fro. And then, I mean, it's just closer generally to most things. So it's easier to get into town. It's easier to just take the dog somewhere for a walk, like going around the park and whatnot. And at the moment, I don't know if that's purely because, was it Heafy Terrace is closed?
Yeah.
It just seems quite quiet.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know if that's because Heafy Terrace is closed or if that road starts to become a lot more busier when they open it back up. But
yeah, well, that's a year away.
Yeah, I saw that. It was fucking crazy.
End of next year, or something like that.
I think so. I think they're doing works underneath that whole time, but I don't know if that road is closed the whole time.
Yeah.
I think it's only closed. It's only meant to be closed up until Feb.
Oh, okay.
So potentially for another couple of weeks.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, like, man, that is
surely not.
Yeah, because the way it's affecting traffic is crazy,
massive. The other,
Well, because I ended up shooting up to go and drop some baking off to Judah. She forgot it yesterday. And I saw everyone's trying to head over the other bridge.
Yep.
So they're all turning right at Mitre 10 and stuff, and they're trying to go up past, is it Te Auha Street?
Yep.
Yeah, and
that place, that on a good day, that place is a shit show.
Yeah.
Because you got fucking 10 schools all in that little vicinity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It really clogs it up. It's fine. It's good walking.
Yeah.
It's fucking quiet as walking.
Yeah.
But then, even if we're driving to the gym or something, we then have to loop around. So we have to go up to 5 Crossroads to then come back down that same road to go back into town.
Yeah.
And
you can't turn right if you even go around that other bit.
Nah.
So you can't turn
you
right
have to
there.
still turn left, go up to the roundabout, and then back down.
Yeah, it's just a shit show.
Yeah, pretty much. But hopefully that isn't for too much longer. But I think because of that, it's felt like where we are now is quite quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it is a relatively... It's only during, school finishing and then 5 o'clock is the only time it's really busy around there.
Yeah.
And in the morning, But what was I going to say? What were you just talking about before?
Traffic? Roadworks?
I can't remember. Anyway.
Moving on.
Yeah. So has that been helping you for work? Just giving you a bit more extra time just to stamp things out, or are you just sort of filling that gap now?
Yeah, basically. I think we always fill the gap with something. I've definitely found it easier to fit other things in. So the walk isn't just the main part of my day. I can kind of tag something normally at the end of a walk now, whether that's going for another walk or going for a run or doing some extra work or whatever. And it's making it easier to kind of get into work, so I don't have to leave at 6 in the morning. I can leave at 7 or whatever. And it tends to be just a little bit, there's less barriers to wanting to walk.
Yeah.
Whereas I found, even though I'd still kind of turn up and walk every day anyway, there'd always be that 45-minute or hour walk there. I'm like, fuck, now I have to wake up half an hour earlier. Do I really want to do it today? Can I just take the car? There was always that in the back of the mind.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's kind of
no, it's just actually a walk in the park.
I'm just going to walk. Yeah, literally. I walk through the park.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's made that decision easier. And it means I don't have to rush.
Yeah.
Which then means I'm not a sweaty mess by the time I actually get into work. I can actually kind of just cruise and take my time.
Yeah, I was wondering how that would work for you. I was like, man, I feel like I'd smell, I'd stink. You get in.
You got the deodorant in the backpack and a change of clothes.
Yeah. Do you shower sometimes if you?
I've never been that sweaty.
Oh yeah.
I've never been that.
It's fucking hot lately, man. So I would.
Yeah, but I think because I normally walk early, I miss the most of the heat.
Yeah.
So like I'm normally
So the
at work
sweatiness is when you're coming home.
when I come home, and then I'm going home anyway.
So you can shower and
Yeah,
change anyway.
because it's normally by like I'm at work by 8, so I'm leaving by 7, and it is getting warm by that point. And especially when the sun's like beaming down, you're like, oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
But it's still not like I can put a singlet on and I'm still fine.
Yeah.
And then I'll just put a t-shirt on once I actually get into work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've noticed that I've done a few morning walks, and there's probably that 8 to 8:30 window.
Yep.
And then I'm like, oh, me and Judith went out and we started at 8.
Yep.
And then it sort of went into that, and she got burnt because she didn't realize, like, we went out and just, because it was warmish.
Yep.
But then it's just the heat started coming, and she just burns too easy.
I was going to say, she's also...
Yeah, she's pale. I just tan.
Yeah, exactly. No, it is. It's actually a nice time, and means if I can get like singlet and some shorts on, then you can get a good exposure to the sun when it's not like beaming hot either. So it's quite nice.
Anything in the works for Beyond Nutrition? What's this year looking like for you guys?
What is this year looking like? So I think a big part this year was really systems, and trying to, I guess, find ways that we can continue to drive people to the income sources that we've kind of already established. So I remember last year we kind of talked about establishing the kind of two-pronged income. So whether or not that was, just solely through consulting, but then also through like products and things like that. And so last year we created a couple of different online products, but what we found was we just weren't in a very good routine and system of driving people to those products. And so they would just sit there. Yeah. And so we'd sell like one a month.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, great, but like it's wasting time.
Yeah.
So now that those are there, and obviously the goal is to kind of continue to still create more of those resources that would help people. But how do we actually drive traffic to them better and more efficiently and put more attention back into that?
Yeah.
So just coming up with different ways to, and the one we've just done for the recipe book that we made last year was mainly around email. Yeah. So just trying to get people to sign up into, basically just trying to get more people onto our audience list. So whether that's through Instagram, once they're on Instagram, onto email. Yeah. Once they're on email, then we can kind of contact them in a more like direct way. Yeah. Rather than, being at odds with the algorithm and whether or not you hit a viral post or not. So shifting people from Instagram onto capturing email. Yeah. And then obviously still nurturing that through, the weekly emails that we always do, but also is there free content that we can kind of give away? So this one was like a free breakfast recipe book. Sent that out to people on the email list and one if you signed up to the email list. Yeah. And then at the end of that book, there's a link to, hey, like, did you enjoy these recipes? Yeah. Did you know we also have this one that's also purchased? And so there's just a little bit more of a natural flow. Yeah. Rather than having to be like a hard sell. So going on Instagram and being like, buy our book. Yeah. It can kind of be like, hey, we've got this resource that's completely free. Yeah. If you find value in it, did you know we also have this too? And just finding different ways of leveraging that. Yeah. Just to try and, like I said, like we've got those products there, but we just weren't shipping them that much. Yeah, you're probably still going to have to jump in there and not do the hard sell, but like you're still going to have to get yourself out there because for sure. How are people going to know if they don't know it exists? And it's really interesting when you follow like the likes of Alex Hormozy and Gary Vee and they're always piping on about sort of getting yourself out there, and that's kind of what I'm leaning into this year. I want to figure out how can I guess get myself out there. How can I say I want to help some people, but it's going out and actually do people know that I want to help people? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like how are they supposed to know? And I'm not putting enough content out there, even specifying it. And I went and did a podcast on Tuesday up in Auckland with this guy Thomas Singh. I don't know if you've seen him. He's sort of a property guy, right? And he's quite a vocal, like a polarizing character. Yeah. So that was quite interesting. And
But because we were just sitting down having, the chat that you normally have before you start a podcast and whatnot, and then just sort of telling him about myself. And and I told him, that I used to weigh 130 kgs, and he goes, what the fuck? Like, and he goes, and I didn't see any of that on your content. Like, why the people don't even know? Are you trying to hide that? Are you what are you trying to do? He's like, because he was just sort of talking about how, like, that can put you into how did he say it? That can put you into an authority figure, like a position, because people know that you've you've done that. Like, you're not just a guy that, because he said you just look like a guy that just looks like he's been in shape his whole life. Like, no one can tell, or you kind of have to tell them, hey, I used to weigh 130 kgs and I now got down to 80 kgs. Like, I've lost 50 kgs in the last 4 years. And then the way he started the podcast, he goes, do you know what it's like to fucking be 130 kgs? Well, this fucking guy does. Like, it's just like, but like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's sort of like leaning into that.
I was going to say, how would that have shaped how you want or have thought about getting yourself out there, if at all?
Yeah, well, I thought about, I've always thought of it, I kind of have been, I guess, putting it to the side. It's not really, I don't want it to be like that's my identity, and I mainly was ashamed of it as well, because I used to be fat. I used to be a fat cunt. Like, it's simple as that. Like, and so I don't know if it was something to be proud of, but more I need to change my thinking. It's like where I am now is something to be proud of, versus thinking that's all they're going to think about. Is like, oh man, like, he used to be 130 kgs, because that's how I think to myself. I was like, man, like, I fucking let myself go, and I really didn't prioritize my health, and it's just that was the thinking behind not putting it out there.
Well, I guess ironically, that's so many people, right?
Yeah,
like, that's as a relatability element, like, that is probably at least 50%, if not significantly more, of anyone who is either entrepreneur, manager, somewhere that is, they've put something else first that isn't their health, which, I mean, again, you could probably argue that the fact that we've got obesity rates of 70%, there's at least 70% of people that have done that.
Yeah.
And so there's a relatability element within 70% of the population, just purely from they're actually in the exact same position that you were in.
Yeah.
And granted, probably different circumstance.
Yeah.
But same position. And it's like, actually, there's a journey there that you've already been through that they can or would probably need to relate to in some element if they wish to change that.
Yeah. And it's hard too, because like you got your nutrition company, right? And I'm thinking, I was like, well, I'm not a nutritionist, but I think I can help some people, like when it comes to the mindset.
Yep.
And then that's where I'm working on something at the moment, trying to piece together sort of an entry level type, free offer for people, just to help them out. Or I want to even also offer people, if you're listening and you're wanting to change your life, I'm happy to have a video call. Like, let's jump on a call and let's figure out your situation, and let's figure out how I could probably help you.
That's me.
Like, that's what I want to do. I wanted to just get 10 people, and I just want to change their lives. Honestly, like, I want people to feel the way that I feel. Like, that I've felt, and how proud of myself, and just knowing the feelings that I felt when I was really overweight, and just didn't feel good about myself. When I was staring in the mirror, I struggled to look at myself in the mirror, and now looking at myself now, it's just crazy that how far I've come. And then you just sort of blowing your own mind, and that's what I want to have others feel. And I know they can do it. It's just, and that's why I also said I'm happy to jump on a call, because I also don't want to waste my time, because they talk about it. A lot of entrepreneurs say, like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. It's up to them to make that decision. So realistically, jumping on a video call or a call or something like that, we can try and gauge how serious they are. you know, and I've got a few things up my sleeve that I'm gonna test them to see how serious they are. And if you want to jump on a call, you'll find out what they are. But yeah, that's my thinking behind it, is just you got to sort of vet it out, because everyone wants, like, we're in an economy where they're just picking up every free item and they're not going through any of it.
For sure.
You know, you get what I mean? Like everyone's got a free offer.
Yep.
I'm happy to just, you know, flick out my free little mini program that can, you know, start them on the right journey. But I want the people that I want to help, I want them to be all in on themselves and serious.
And maybe even as a tester, so that people can at least have a think about that before they even jump onto that call. What is even one of those kind of key questions that you think would kind of people should actually ask themselves before they think about whether or not they're like ready to make that change or to book that in?
Yeah, like, well, so my thinking was the question that I would have for you would be, probably, I haven't made this or anything like that, I'm just thinking off the cuff, is the question would be, do you have a pivotal moment? And if you haven't had that pivotal moment that I'm fucking sick of this, I've had enough. If you haven't had that moment, I don't know if you're ready for the journey of what I want to put people through. Because I don't want to just drop 5 kgs or something like that, you know, because that's what I did those first 2 years. I dropped 5 to 20 kgs, but I still stayed around 110, 115, you know, and it just wasn't good enough. I want people to properly change their lives and be role models for others, you know, and that takes a lot. So I feel like if you ask that question, you know, what's that moment, you should be able to. Mine was the, you know, looking up the hill at Switzerland, you know, like that, and that was my moment. And then when you ask someone else, they'll probably have that other thing. It's like they were trying to tie their shoelaces, and they couldn't, and they were like they couldn't even stand up, or they fell over or something like that, and they hurt themselves, and they realized. I
remember saying probably on like maybe episode 2 or 3, whatever. Like when I think we're talking about running, and it was that, you know, it was. I remember walking to work and looking at a hill and being like, fuck me, and getting to the top of that hill and just being gassed. Yeah. And it was since that moment I was like, no, fuck this, I'm getting fit. Like, there has to be more to life than just looking a certain way. Yeah. And like that just sparked a cascade of wanting to be fit and starting to run.
Yeah, so that's my thinking, is around that question, and just sort of put that to them, and then we'll jump on a call. And there will be one way for me to sort of filter out how serious they are. Because everyone wants to be in shape. Like, and we can all say that, you know, I want to be in shape. It's just like, are you willing to do what it takes to get in shape? But not only that as well, was just expanding your mind. Like, I want to help people in business as well. I just want to utilize my skill set to help others, pretty much, you know, and as best as I can.
I remember we were talking about that the last time we were sitting down, you know, and you were kind of contemplating at that point, like, what does that actually look like? Yeah. Which, I mean, probably 3 weeks?
Yeah, about 3 weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's obviously been a meditation or a contemplation over the past 3 weeks, and it's fruited to something.
Well, I also saw, have I seen you since I've watched the Tony Robbins? I did the Tony Robbins Summit. No. So I did a 3-day online summit. Yep. And that was probably one of the reasons why I decided, like, I need to actually help some people, and I want to just, because I look at him and he just really just kills it, and he just helps so many people, and a lot of people talk shit about him, and he's pretty intense, but like, the dude has been doing it for almost 45 years. That is crazy. And you can think about how no one's probably changed as many lives as that guy, and he's just on the whole time. Yeah. And you can tell, and he's in it, and he's, you know, like, he's feeling it, and the emotions are coming through for him. It's truly what he wants to do. And I was like, man, like, that's awesome seeing that. And then he talks about how people, like, your own personal life experiences, you have the ability to help someone. So, like, if you've gone through something, like, your individual experience can help others. Like, and that's when I was like, okay, I need to actually look into this a bit more and think about how we can help others. And it's sort of around why we started the podcast, right? Like
100%.
I want to help others. And
I was going to say, it goes back to that first notion that you even brought up, which was, even if this only gets 10 subscribers or helping 10 people, it's that same notion has kind of traveled the whole way through, and it's just manifested into something different by the end of that.
Yeah.
I actually think probably something you mentioned about Tony Robbins, the thing that makes a good coach is the ones that can actually relate to the person in front of them through the story. And it's not necessarily about, hey, like, I know this, therefore you should do that.
Yeah.
It's, hey, like, I get what you're going through. Like, and if you've been there and you know the temptations, like, I can talk to people about the cravings of food because I fucking get it every day.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I can understand what it feels like to not be fit because I wasn't. I looked it, but I wasn't. I hadn't fucking run in 10 years, 15 years. Like, and it's when you can understand that and you can understand the process that you've been through and all the little hardships that you've had to face along the way, you can pretty much guarantee that everyone else that's in the same situation is going to be facing those hardships, and they'll relate to that. And so when they come up with that, like, yeah, that's like, I get that.
Yeah.
I felt that.
Yeah, they got someone to lean on when it comes to those tough moments.
Yeah.
That we all inevitably go through.
Yep.
Right.
And then you've learned something because of that. And a lot of the times, like, I actually think it's a case of trying to step back rather than looking at it from I don't know, I fixed my sugar craving by doing ... It's actually, what's the overarching theme that you did?
Yeah.
And once you can actually kind of take a step back, irrespective of whether it was in sugar, whether or not it was in running, whether or not it was turning up to the gym or whatever, you'll find they're probably the same meta.
Yeah.
Right? Like, overarching skill or behavior that you're trying to change is probably very similar.
Yeah.
It's that same little fucking voice that sits on your shoulder that says, "Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
You want to do that? Do you not want to do that?" It feels better to sit on the couch. It feels better to have the donut. It feels better to eat the packet of chips. It's that same fucking voice. And it's just like, okay, once you can get in touch with that, it doesn't matter what the thing is, you can still relate, because it's like, I get what you're saying when you're here and you're like, fuck, I struggled. I really felt like having takeaways today.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know, I've been there. Like, I get it. I really wanted the packet of chips last night.
Yeah.
Like, and so you can walk them through that because you've already been there. It's very hard to do that if you've never been in that situation.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people will kind of discount you if you haven't as well, and they kind of, well, like, you don't know what it's like to go through what I'm going through. Like, a lot of people kind of play that way, and I'd sort of like, almost when I said to you how I thought you didn't have your cravings, like, that's probably part of those. I was just, like, oh man, he's so, like, in your head, this is me in my weak mindset that I had when I was fat, that was my excuse. I was just like, Mikey doesn't struggle like I do. Like, he doesn't have those cravings. And we've talked about it quite a lot on the podcast, but that's in my own head.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people are already in their own head and they don't actually realize, and probably having someone, and having that person that can actually relate, and they go, oh yeah, I know this, you're going through this motion and I know how to get you out of it, or just being there to be like, hey, it's not easy. It's not always going to be easy.
Yep.
And that's the problem with trying to actually help people change themselves, because everyone's scouring the internet for the quick fix,
for sure,
for the 6-pack abs in 6 months or something like that.
6 fucking weeks.
Yeah, 6 weeks. Yeah, that's what it was. Hey, the 6-pack.
6-pack shortcuts.
Yeah, so that's
YouTube
right.
TM.
Yeah, he just reappeared.
Did he?
I just saw he posted it, and I was like, holy shit! I've seen this. This dude has popped up back again. Like, was some other thing. He's doing the same shit.
Right.
Yeah. It's
just in a different avenue.
He made heaps of money. I saw someone did a breakdown on how much money he made, and it was crazy. Something like $30-40 million off of people off of his videos and stuff, like, because he was trending. Yeah.
Fuck, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think that's also the difference between like you have to call people out, right? Like when you're hearing that type of conversation from someone else, and if you've been there, you can hear it because you know that that's your own voice. Like you've been there before. Those are the same excuses that you've given yourself. And so like your job is to call it out, right? But that's the difference between someone who'll just call it out and can empathize because they've been there.
Yeah.
And it's just calling it out because they see it as it's wrong, or they think of themselves on a hierarchy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if you can call people out from a place of empathy where it's like, hey man, like, no, that's self-sabotaging.
Yeah.
Like, I know that you can get through this, and you know, I've done that this way, or if you can come up with a story that surrounds that, it's like people can then start to relate rather than just like hide away.
Yeah.
They're like, if you just scold them, be like, nah, fuck, you just need to harden up. Let's say that's a classic one, right? Like you need to harden up, or you need to like tough it out. People just be like, close their arms. For those that aren't watching.
They'll put their heckles up, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. They'll close their arms, they'll shut off, and at that point, you're just talking to a brick wall, whereas it's like, I call it now like the 4-year-old. I just call it like, you're basically acting like the 4-year-old. And if you said it in that plain voice, you'd be like, what the fuck? Like, close. But if you can joke around and be like, yeah, you know, it's like, think of back when a 4-year-old or a teenager would like not want to do something, like throw their toys out the cot, or like, nah.
I don't want to.
Just take a stand. And it's that same behavior, but you can just, and you can start seeing it in yourself, and you're like, fuck, I'm just being a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm just being a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Dang. Okay. Now I can kind of move past this. But when you can start to relate to people that way, and be like, yeah, I used to. Every time that, I don't know, same thing with a packet of chips, right? Like every time that I want a pack of chips, it would just be like, hold, but then it'd be like, free for all.
Yeah.
Kid in a candy store. 4-year-old behavior comes out and it's like, I've never had this soda drink before, and I'm just going to smash all of it. And it's the same behavior. It's the same sensation.
Yeah, like I worry with me because I will have to have a particular type of person that I'm going to have to help, because I am quite tough as well. I feel like I wouldn't be able to sort of like hold your hand and just sort of, you know, come on, like let's go up and let's go down the slide, like and like coax you along sort of thing. I would have to be. That's why I want to jump on a call and vet people out, because I will be hard on them, but it will be with love, you know, and just believing in them, because that's what I think a lot of people are lacking, is someone that actually, you know, sees that they're capable of doing it, because a lot of them already have their own self-doubt. So but having someone behind them that can see that they're close, you know, to a breakthrough or something like that, you know, that they just need to get that little nudge, you know, keep going. You know, I responded really well with it with my dad with sport, just getting that extra nudge. Come on, you know, come on, mate, like you can do better. And you're like, oh, I can't, you know. But realistically, you keep having that self-doubt. But I need to have that particular client that is able, that wants to make that decision. Now, okay, sweet, whatever it takes, and get on my case if I'm not pulling my thumb out, you know, like just get on my case. And that's what I think I'll be good at, as motivating people through that way. That will be more my style, I would say.
How have you found, and whether or not it's hit yet, but how have you found kind of balancing the growth there versus the growth? Is there any kind of external growth personally too? So whether or not that is in, I know you talked about courses, so education, or fitness, is fitness still there as a goal, or is it kind of, how have you found, is it that taking a back step while focusing on this? Because that's kind of what I'm battling with at the moment.
With me, like it's funny you mention it, because we've been really busy the last few weeks, but I've been just keeping it at the forefront for me, as I've fitness. Gotcha. So I've been turning up to the gym and not missing an outdoor walk with Leonidas. Yep. And my thinking behind that is, you know, like my dog doesn't know how busy I am. It doesn't really matter to him. Yep. And, you know, I think I have a duty to him to make sure he gets a walk, like regardless of how I'm feeling. I think we've only missed one in the last like 6 months, and I think we were both crook-as or something like that. So, and we made up for it. We took him on a bigger walk. But anyway, it's always been at the front for me. It's and that's what I would want to try and portray to someone that I'm looking to help, is like, this becomes your number one thing, and it should never ever fall to the back burner. We've been so busy, but I've just, even Judith was just like, oh, she took a couple of days off, and she's like, you should take a day off. And I was like, nah, like, that's the only time I get to myself, or else I'm trying to grow the podcast, or I'm trying to do the clips, or put together the podcast, or I'm trying to do the little cherry as well. I was like, I can't do everything, but I need to make sure that I'm staying on top of that. For me, it's I guess that fear of going back.
Yeah, for sure.
For me, and I don't want to fall back into old habits. And yeah, that would be my answer for that.
Because I guess I struggle with the perfectionist element of it, and so
you're worried you're not doing it
enough,
optimal.
Yeah. Like, I can in multiple elements at once. So I can turn up to the gym, right? And I could I walk pretty much every day, and I could run every day. And with that, I still get the sense of, depending where I'm at mentally, I struggle with, I need to be a runner, or I need to be an entrepreneur, or I need to be an intellect, or whatever, right? Yep. So like, last year was, right? Yep. Like, that was literally last year. So last year was all about reading, learning, honing my skill writing, because I saw that was kind of like leading towards business progression, but also personal progression. I never really gave a shit about it during school, to be honest. You know, the only reason I got into reading, and the only thing I actually read after school, was like journal articles. Because I had to, otherwise I wouldn't get a degree. But that was fine, because you could kind of sift through that, and it was very black and white. It was like, this equals this, and therefore they think this. And I was like, okay, cool. Do I agree with that? Is there a fault in whatever they've put together in that paper? If so, I can talk about that. If not, they said this, and that backs up my point. So it was very 1 + 1 = 2. But through that, it was hard, or it took a longer road to developing your own opinion, because really all you were was just like a thesaurus. You were just a congregation of other people's opinions that then have generated your own opinion, which is still everyone anyway.
Society, right? Like,
it's everyone anyway. But it didn't help necessarily. I found I could kind of get through undergraduate without actually thinking about what I thought. I could pass a paper just reciting papers of the past. Right? And so it was really only when I went back and did my postgraduate that I kind of had to have a bit more of my own opinion. And so then it was like, okay, that's what like this research says, but what do I actually think about that? And after postgraduate, I never really enhanced that skill. I just left it. But there was a barrier. So if I want to communicate with someone, and this is what I picked up while working with clients, if I want to get the best out of them, I have to be able to communicate that. And whether I'm communicating that verbally or written, it needs to start in the written form. And so obviously at my old job, a lot of what we were doing was both face-to-face, but also written emails. And the better that I could communicate to the clients through email, the better that they would receive that information, the more likely that they're actually able to do that and do what it is that I'm actually asking them to do. And I developed that skill, but again, that's kind of what helped me think about, what do I actually think, and what am I trying to take from this piece of research into what it is that they should action. And it was that kind of stimulated, okay, now I need to continue to read further. But so all of last year was just a whole process of essentially trying to read more, to understand more, to try and think more, and take that information and put it into my own written form article and ways of communication. But as a byproduct of that, I was
not a runner.
I was not a runner.
Mm.
I was writing.
Mm.
I was entrepreneur.
Mm.
And so I had my hands in those baskets,
Yeah.
trying to do that. And as a byproduct, I didn't feel like I was a runner.
Yeah.
Even though I was still running, I wasn't a runner.
Yeah.
And so now I'm kind of like similar to you. Like I think like almost last year was all about that progression. Like you were going through the motion of attaining physical fitness.
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, attained.
Yep.
And now what am I going to build with that? Now it's kind of like I've almost felt the call to like go back but into running. Yeah. And become more fitness orientated.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm getting that kind of tension between giving one up for the other. And I don't know how to hold the tension of both very well.
Yeah, well, I would challenge you to think maybe outside the box with it. Because I know a lot of people say, oh, you can only, you can't spread yourself too thin or anything like that. And I do agree. But I also like to try and challenge that thought as well. It's like maybe I can push a little harder and do a bit more in each area. And that's kind of what I'm going through right now. It's like, yes, I'm not running like I was when I was doing my running last year. Yep, sweet. But I'm still like keeping a really high standard. And I still notice some of the workouts are slightly off on those big days. But then I make sure that next day that I go back in, I push really hard. And so it's just trying to sort of figure out like, all right, because I'm constantly trying to level up. And I feel like when you are stuck and you are deciding whether to put more time there or to put more time there, I like to think like, can I actually just see if I can put it in both? And then if I burn out, I'll take a little bit of a step back or something like that. Or maybe you communicate to your partner, like I might not be a bit present this next week or two because I'm going to be going a bit harder in these areas. Because my thing is, in my head, I always tell myself if the work needs to be done, it's got to get done, and then I just apologize later. And well, it's true though. Like that's what I do. Like and normally, if you're off working hard, it's hard for them to be mad at you because essentially we're doing it for our future, right? Like it's so that I can relieve future pressure, the hard work that I'm putting in now, so that we don't have to have that in the foreseeable future because I'm trying to bring it forward. But like I'm constantly pushing boundaries for myself, and I think that it could be the same for you. Like I went that whole year of just realizing what's capable. Yes, I know I probably needed to tailor it back a little bit, but it's just actually realizing you can do a bit more. And there are some people out there that are amazing and that I look up to that are just constantly just sort of just pushing that boundary, like just going a little bit right up to it, and then they realize, okay, yeah, sweet, and they tailor it back a little bit. And I think you're very capable of it. I think you'll probably be meticulous with it as well, and you are able to see the signs earlier enough to just go, okay, sweet, now maybe I will pull that back. But then you will also know, like, am I leaving stuff on the table? Like, is there stuff that I could do? And I know that you probably will self-reflect upon that, and you probably realize you're like, oh man, I could do a bit more. And that's what I'm going through at the moment. But I don't see it as bad.
Yeah.
I can't ever put it down to being bad because I'm constantly out there doing way more than most other people.
I think of it like how diamonds forged. It's like it's forged through tension.
Yeah.
And it's actually that kind of compression which then creates this beautiful stone. And it's similar in this regard. Like I feel it every time because I felt the same thing when I first got into just the opposite, right? Like I felt the same thing when I was just starting to read again. Yeah. I didn't feel like a reader at that point, right? Like I wasn't that person. And so doing it, I kind of felt phony. Like, who the fuck am I trying to be? Like, read all these books and then write about the books? Like, what the fuck? Like, that's not what you do. You run, bro. Like, you do exercise. And that tension was still there while I was doing that. And just as the tension is here now, trying to shift the other way. And I think, for me, potentially holding that tension for a little bit longer rather than allowing the momentum to shift too far to one side. And I think just continuous reflection on, hey, how is that tension going? And maybe just because it is uncomfortable is maybe a good sign.
That's honestly why I was saying I challenge you to maybe try both, because I know that you probably read a lot about how it's like, okay, we talk about it, what your 3 coins and, your 5 slots. Like we talk about it a lot. It's like, yes, that is true. But I think in order to be exceptional, you got to do exceptional things. And I think you can be exceptional. And that's why I was thinking I reckon you could probably just slightly push each other instead of just going, okay, all
Well, I
in
guess
there.
we never know whether or not we've actually got 3 coins in the pocket until we take them out, right?
Yeah.
Like you might actually have 4 in there. You may only have 2.
And that's mine when I was talking about my mate Carl, when it comes to elite fitness, I thought I was doing fitness. And then you probably even with some of these Hyrox guys that you, some of your clients that you get, there's levels to this shit. And then you kind of need to just expose yourself to what's possible, go after it. And then when you probably get to that level, you'll realize there's another mountaintop to climb. And that's because we don't know what's possible yet, what's right in front of us.
Yeah.
Until we get there, and then we go, oh shit, I am capable of doing that and I can achieve these things. And it wasn't as hard as I thought. It's in my head. And then I can just climb further up.
Well, and that's why I think the accountability, like why the calls, why the mentors, why the coaches are so important is because they are one step removed from your bullshit.
Yeah.
And so, you can then, we all, we've been talking about our own reflection processes like meditation and journaling and things like that. And you can do that, but often when you're caught in the stress of everything going on at the same time, like even for me, like I found that now journaling has dropped. So because I'm trying to hold attention in other things, journaling's dropped.
Oh,
and
wow.
So, and so now it's like, even though that was a process, often that's the process, like some of those processes kind of get left by the wayside.
Yeah.
But if you turn up to a call, if you turn up to a mentorship meeting, if you turn up to a coaching session, it's there. And it's like, okay, now it's the time that I can actually put this shit out, air the shit out.
Yeah.
And see where my bullshit is and see where my limitations are and see if I'm maybe even overreaching.
Yeah.
Because the other person that's looking at it, you've got this whole mask that you can't even see through. Whereas they're looking at it and they're just like, they're removed from your shit.
Yeah.
And they're like, you could do more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nah, you probably are pushing a little bit too hard.
Yeah.
Pull back.
Yeah.
Like, you're not giving yourself enough time. Pull back. And vice versa, right? And so that's where I actually think, like, even those calls are pivotal. Because it's the one time that you can actually, you can air your shit out with someone else, and then they also get to see for what the bullshit is, or what the bullshit isn't.
Yeah.
And like I said, a lot of the times I know when I'm not journaling, it's because I'm hiding from the page. And so really the best thing I can do is open that damn book. But often it's a conversation that needs to lead to that process again. Yeah. To call that bullshit out. For me, like, I wouldn't have even thought about it unless we had this conversation, right? Yeah. And so now I'm like, fuck, okay, I actually have to go back and journal. Yeah. Because it's only through now thinking about that where I'm like, fuck, I haven't journaled for like a whole week.
Crazy. Right? I haven't missed a day this year.
Yeah, there you go.
And I had a horrible year last year, but that's why, like, this year I said to myself, because Andy Frisell talked about the free, what is it called? The critical tasks.
Yep.
So having 3 additional critical tasks every day. And he said, if you do it for 365 days a year, he promises like your life will change. And I was like, okay, well, I sort of picked it up last year and then now I've moved it to this year. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, that was your trial run. Cause I went through and counted. I only did like probably close to 200 days of the year, which, was still not too bad for someone who never has done it in his life. To now, I haven't missed a day yet, so and it's part of my daily routine now as I go read some more I just have a minimum for myself. I just read 2 pages as a minimum. But normally if I've got time, I'll keep going past, but I'll just read those 2 pages and then I'll journal. And then I'll go to bed. You know, like it's building those habits, right? And because I put down the critical tasks as well. So like meditation is still on that. So I've meditated every day this year as well, which is crazy to say. I think I might have missed one day that I had to get up at like 5:30 for a booking.
Fair.
Yeah, but I don't know if I swung back to it, but yeah.
Yeah, it is. And like I said, like I think actually because I found reading was taking a hit because of running, so I'd normally run where I'd read. Now I've just subbed out journaling for reading. So I was like, oh, well, I'm going to put reading back in, but as a byproduct that shifted journaling out. And so now it's like, fuck, but actually I need to just prioritize the time to go and sit down and reflect. And that might change, like that might look different. So like my reflection process might look different now compared to what it did last year. But again, like it's always having that opportunity to come back and just revisit.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to do so when you're caught up in your own shit.
Yeah.
And so that's where I actually find like, you know, the coaching calls and mentorships and things like that is actually valuable because it's always a time in the calendar to reflect.
Yeah.
And then the more frequently you do that, the more frequently you turn up to that shit, you then just get to actually, that's right. I did say that.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that. And I hadn't thought about that until now because I've said it out loud. I'm going to do this. And it's just that self and peer accountability that helps to keep that progression going.
Yeah, like I see so much importance in it, and that's why I think it's why I know I'm going to be going into it a bit more this year. I'm going to probably change the name of this podcast to How Can I Help You? Pretty much. Like, you know, this has mainly been around the topic of what we've been talking about. So yeah, I just want 10 people. I want 10 people my goal for the year, and I feel like I will fail this year if I can't have a positive impact on 10 people's lives. Like, it doesn't even have to be to lose weight. So even if someone is in shape or like not fat but is struggling with business and is really or motivating themselves to do a side hustle or anything like that, I want to help them as well.
Yeah.
You know, probably left it way too late because probably, you know, you get the first 50 minutes and then they're like, okay, sweet, we get the point, guys. But I'll
you just edit this and put this at the start.
Maybe I could. Yes. I want to reach out, and I might even do a boost on the podcast, like to actually get out there because I want to actually meet some people and help some people that want to change their lives.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's the best place for people to contact you?
I would say Instagram's pretty good.
Yep.
I've been getting a lot of followers through that and a lot of engagement on a few of my posts that I did recently. Body, mind, and integrity. So body, space, mind, and integrity. Oh no, body, mind, and integrity. Yeah.
Or Aaron Won't Stop.
Double A. Yep. Awesome. All right. I hope to hear from you guys.
100%.
Awesome. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.